Hello, everybody. Wild Man Z here with a Christmas special. I want to talk about my favorite Christmas-oriented comic that I can think of off the top of my head. It is the Uncanny X-Men number 143 from good old 1980. So I'm around 13, 14 years old at this point in time, youngster. Relatively new into comics. Got into the X-Men. That was not my first comic. My first comic was FF Annual number 13, around 1977. But I got into X-Men around 1979-80 in issue number 131. That was Hellfire Club segueing into the Dark Phoenix saga. So I'm into X-Men for about a year now at this point in time and really digging it. And so nothing says Christmas like a cover. There is a Christmas tree in the background, but in the foreground you have a demon, demonic character. Looks rather reminiscent to Alien, if you notice the head and so forth. Very, very much like the alien creature created by Geiger. I'm not sure how to say his name. And of course, we also have the one Jewish member of the Uncanny X-Men for our Christmas special, Kitty Pryde on the cover. And you know, it's interesting, as I read a lot online, they talk about, like, they say the first openly Jewish character in Marvel was Ben Grimm. He came out somewhere in the 90s and said, I'm Jewish. But she was Jewish from the get-go. She always wore, Kitty Pryde, going back to earlier issues, she's introduced around issue 129, 130. She's wearing a Star of David. She's clearly Jewish. She says she says she's Jewish very early on, and she's wearing a Star of David boldly on her chest. They made a very definitive point of showing that. So I think these fans need to go back and read some older comics. Ben Grimm was not the first openly Jewish character, if that's a thing. That's important, but it's interesting because so many of the creators of comics were Jewish, but they didn't necessarily say their characters were Jewish. Check out this great opening page. The art here is by John Byrne, of course, Chris Claremont's writing. This is the early 1980s. This is a reminiscent of an earlier issue where in the early 100s where Storm fought a demon horde. They don't look anything like the demon on the cover because they came out before the Alien movie. But the one who comes back out of the portal later, of course, he looks like the alien. Of course, everybody borrows from everybody. It's not that big of a deal. But they're just flashing back that there was obelisk or Carn, I think they call it, a C-A-I-R-N. I think that's another type of an obelisk type of structure. Behind Xavier's mansion, why they have this type of Egyptian type of thing back there, who knows? But it's an interdimensional portal. It allows demons in. And of course, the one that escapes, the one that looks like the alien, a couple years later, is coming out of the rubble of that. Of course, nothing says Christmas like a couple in the woods about to get a Christmas tree. They got a sword. It's their first Christmas together. See the little romantic purplish pink light behind them. I guess that means like you're in love. And then you run into a demon in the woods where you're cutting down your first tree, and he consumes you. So it's macabre, but it's when you're a kid, you love this kind of stuff. This art here is mind-blowing. Check out this page here. This is like the secondary cover page. The demon looming over the top. The title says demon in that gory type of lettering. And in the bottom we have a panoramic view looking down. I guess it's not really panoramic. A downward view on Angel, Kitty Pryde, and Professor doing something in the danger room. And so, of course, what's going to happen here is the team's going to leave. And segueing into that, Wolverine's date comes over for the night. Mariko, they introduced her several years before. That's the love of his life. Fuzzy Elf, a.k.a. Nightcrawler, whips out the mistletoe. And she probably, being Japanese, may not be familiar with that custom. She looks kind of taken aback, maybe by the Fuzzy Elf, maybe by the mistletoe. But Wolverine cold snaps. Look at him. He breaks out the claws. He almost eviscerates poor Nightcrawler. There's a little bamf out of there. Of course, Colossus. John Byrne is a great Colossus. Subdues him, and Professor X gives him a little mind whammy and asks him, what the hell are you doing? Wolverine calms down. But he almost killed Fuzzy Elf. And I think that was a little bit out of character. I think it was a little much. But, when you're a kid, you like that kind of stuff. Love the look at the size disparity between Wolverine and Colossus. You know, for you guys, if you're younger viewer watching this, of the three people to watch this, you picture Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, a tall, well-built man. Wolverine in the comics is a short guy. He's like 5'3", 5'4", tops. He's built, but like he's not like bodybuilder built. He's more like a short, stocky kind of guy. Like, you know, he's portrayed as really hairy, like kind of feral, you know, like the name implies. But he's definitely not 6'2". He's a short guy, and they always would make fun of him, call him runt, and things like that. So, kind of, you know, with the tradition of the way comics were back in the day, the whole team has various Christmas things they're going to do out on the town and so forth, family, etc. The one member of the team who gets left behind is the sole Jewish character on the team. It's Kitty Pryde. They leave the 13-year-old girl who's untrained, a new member of the team. They leave her back in the mansion all by herself. You know, this is before you had all the phones and all the connections that we have today with the real world. She does get on the phone. She talks a little bit with Slim Scott Summers. He's off the team right now. Gene just died, but of course, even though Gene died, he's got himself another love interest down there. That's Captain Lee Forster. What happens is they have a little bit of a romance for a couple of years there. You know, when you're like Herman Melville and Moby Dick, you know, when you grim about the mouth, go out to sea. So he decides to become like like get himself on a fishing boat. You know, be like a hand on a fishing boat, whatever they call that. And you know, he goes up there. He's looking for Lee. And she's like, yeah, I'm Lee Forster. Alyssa's her name, I believe. Good-looking blonde. So, you know, Scott Summers stayed heartbroken for about 2 or 3 issues before he started to find a new girl. He was also, later on, we meet Madeline Pryor, right, pretty much, you know, a couple of years after this, who's kind of like, I won't spoil it, but she looks like Jean. I'll just leave it at that. So Kitty's left at home alone. You know, this is, you know, before the time of Home Alone, but, you know, kind of that kind of thing. She's by herself for Christmas. She's doing some Danger Room type of stuff. We see she's got some major gymnastic skills in here. But then she goes upstairs and she sees that Storm's room has been wrecked. The skylight is broken and the cold air's come in and killed all of Storm's plants. Now, if this doesn't look like the whatever his name is, Giger's alien, I don't know what does. I think it's a little bit of a ripoff, but when you're a kid, you're like not thinking about that. You're thinking of how awesome it looks. Look at that awesome demonic figure. Of course, Kitty Pryde's power is that she can phase and become dematerialize her body, kind of like the Vision does. She doesn't have the Vision is like super powerful. I mean, he's arguably the most or second most powerful members of the Avengers period. I mean, I'd put him up there with Thor. I mean, he can materialize or dematerialize his body. He can become as hard as diamond. He can shoot a beam out of his head. He's got super strength. He's got a host of powers. He can fly. You know, he's just got everything pretty much. It's hard to stop the Vision. But she could pretty much, at this point in time, all she can do is dematerialize the body. She can walk on air type of thing. But no, she doesn't really have any real offensive powers. I always wondered what she could do if she phased into you and reformed herself, but I don't think they ever showed her actually doing that. But check out the art of the demon busting through the wall and getting at her, and he slashes through her at one point. She does phase, but she realizes, because he's mystical, that when he slashes through her, even in a phased form, she feels it. Look at her screaming here. I mean, it's a hardcore picture. Let's see if we can get it in there good. Yeah, that's some good art. Byrne is great at drawing facial expressions. He's not a big background guy. Sometimes I hear people complain about that because he doesn't do a lot with backgrounds. But he's good with faces and so forth like this. Check out this. It's just a little... this is how long this guy's burned. This is how they used to advertise for comics. We didn't have on internet at this point. This is at least 15 years before the internet. They would put full-page ads in the comics. You could also mail in for a more extensive listing. And you can see here all the comic book prices are listed. And X-Men should be in here somewhere. X-Men. So you can go back at this point in time to get X-Men number 6 and 7 for $25. That was quite a bit of money. And already, just check it out. Issues like 111 and 116, so we're in the 140s here. They're already $10. So this comic was getting popular. You know, the other ones did not appreciate like that. They were all only a couple bucks each. But already, this was when comics started becoming a collectible, really, Of course, what she does is she gets this is very much like Sigourney Weaver fighting the alien. She tricks she tricks the demon into the Danger Room. unleashes hell on him. Of course, it doesn't stop. He keeps rolling along here. She lures him ultimately. Check out this great scene of him. She ultimately lures him into the hangar. And now tell me if this isn't familiar here. She gets him behind the engine, and she blasts him with the Blackbird, the stealth jet. Now, isn't that similar to what... Didn't Sigourney do that in the one movie? She shot him out into space, and didn't she blast him with the engine of her ship? If I'm recalling that correctly. She didn't just put him in space. I think she actually blasted him, didn't she? So I think this is a little bit of an Alien ripoff, but that's great. It's awesome. And then, of course, what happens is that they didn't leave her hanging. Her parents come over. And let's see if she says anything about being Jewish here. Hi, Mom and Dad. Well, you got Dad, you grew a beard. She's really happy to see Colossus. Oh, yeah, here we go. Charles, this is the father saying this. So I'm in this panel right here. Let's read what the father says. Yeah, he goes, Charles, to be honest, you couldn't have kept us away. I didn't realize we'd miss Kitty so much. Our visit your special Hanukkah. He goes, so much. Our visit, your special Hanukkah surprise. Oh, it's got a little hyphen there. Is as much a gift to us as to her. So, yeah, they refer to Hanukkah right there. So that's her Hanukkah surprise as they're coming over. Oh, yeah, and so here at the end, this great little scene is between Storm. Storm and Kitty bond really closely. There is a little bit of a competition. Later, they introduce another woman who's a dancer named, I think her name is Nikki or something like that, Stevie, dance instructor. Another powerful black woman in here who becomes kind of, Kitty likes to do dance and ballet, becomes kind of her role model as well. And there's a little competition between Storm and that woman, but she ends up being really cool. But she's telling Storm here that I kind of wrecked the danger room and like wrecked the Blackbird and like destroyed the hangar, but I destroyed the demon. So you can see that hand is coming down here still. He was crisp, but he was still going for her. It's an awesome issue. It's awesome. It's just beautifully drawn. The team, it's a dream team. Let's see if we can find a page that gives all the cast of creators here, besides Byrne. And so here, they usually put it on the first page, but here they put it with the kind of like a secondary cover page, title page, I should say. Chris Claremont and John Byrne, they list Chris Claremont exclusively as the writer, but they put as co-plotters both Claremont and Byrne, and then Byrne as the penciler. The inking is by Terry Austin. The colorist is Glynis Wein, and I'm not sure if it's Wine or Wein. I always say Wein, Wein. And then I can't pronounce his name, Tom Orzechowski. He's the letterer. He was the letterer all the time, and the lettering is always really good. You know, I remember Stan Lee said the lettering is one of the most challenging parts of the comics because you don't want to, take away from the art, figuring out how to get it all in there. And this is, just looking at the this beautiful cover page, there's a lot of writing in here. They got rid of all these caption boxes and so forth, and the notes on the bottom, like where it'll say like last issue and all this. There was a lot of thought bubbles and so forth. The comics were a lot more text dense back in the day. Getting back to the cast was Louise Jones was the editor, and Jim Shooter, I think he recently passed away, was the editor-in-chief. But just an absolutely gorgeous issue. Again, look at her. Look how beautifully he draws her face and her eyes in this picture. It's just beautiful up here. Really good with drawing figures. Very lithe young girl. She's a teenager. Kitty Pryde's probably 13 or 14 at this time. Always like the ads in the back. You can get yourself 123 Roman soldiers for $2.98. I don't think who would you get? You get generals. You get cavalry. You get 24 cavalry, 4 generals, 18 spears and shields, 18 archers, sling throwers, slingers. They call them slingers. Chariots of drivers, 4. You get 4 working catapults. So, this was, it's funny. I don't think kids play with army guys anymore. When I was a kid, army guys were all sorts, Romans, World War II guys, cowboys and Indians, that was the whole thing, were very big. toys to have, in terms of little figures and so forth and setting up battle scenes. One of the highlights of my youth was I one time built it was like for art class, I had a plaster Paris. I built a Revolutionary War scene that had some kind of accuracy to it. I remember just reading books and I forgot it was Bunker Hill, some battle. And I got a bunch of soldiers, something like this, like little painted soldiers and so forth. And I think they were metal. My mother helped me buy them out of a magazine like this or something. And I ended up winning a prize. It ended up being like in the window front of some store in the Hamptons of Long Island. I just remember taking so much pride in it. I was like 10 years old, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. But little toy soldiers were big. These comics, I like looking at the originals because the advertisements. Here's another holiday-oriented picture with all the... this shows you who was popular in Marvel at the time. So, let's go through this really quick. So we got a little wreath here. Mighty Marvel's big money savings holiday offer. And, it's to get comics at a discount price. But really cool. That's Luke Cage and that Power Man, Doc Strange, Captain America, the Green Hulk, Spider-Man. Now, this was a late 70s. This was a big character in Marvel. He's still in the early 80s. That's Conan the Barbarian. He was saving them in the late 70s when their sales weren't good. That and Star Wars. Iron Man, Human Torch, The Thing, and then Daredevil. So Daredevil's right up there with the rest of them. Dazzler had a book at this point in time. I actually have the masterwork for that upstairs. I have not read it, and I never have read an issue of it. It's by Tom DeFalco, J.R., John Romita Jr., and Alfredo Alcala. I don't know who he is. I have that upstairs, and I really feel a collection of it. I really feel ashamed to have not read it. Check out my man here, Charles Atlas. You know what? I've been looking at pictures of old timers online. There was a lot of guys a lot more jacked than Charles Atlas back in the 30s and 40s. I mean, there was guys like there was this one guy named George Hackenschmidt. I believe who the Hack Squat's named after. He was jacked. I'm looking at him. He was like 1900-ish, and he makes Charles Atlas look small, but Charles Atlas knew how to promote himself. Again, we have the Mile High thing, Marvel calendar. We also have Grit. Never seen it in my life, but it allegedly was a magazine or a newspaper you could sell. That and Seeds used to sell all the time. You tell kids to sell Seeds. There was a lot of cool stuff. I used to look at all the ads all the time. I remember it's not an issue, but they used to have an issue for like $10 or less. You could buy a squirrel monkey, and they would ship it to you alive. That's what they said. I mean, I'm having a hard time imagining this. How you could get a squirrel monkey? Super gifts and gimmicks. Those are always fun. What was the big gimmicks here? Venus flytrap. Okay, I can see that being legit. Exploding pens, they were huge. Giant evil snake. Every one of these things has a giant snake of some sort. Here we go. Let's see if we can see this picture. I don't want to wreck the comic. Where's somewhere up here? What's that guy doing? That's called a spy scope. The spy scope, pen size, telescope, sports, objects blocks away. Great for spying, sports, and girl watching. And that's what they show as a girl wearing a skimpy bikini. And that's why guys bought this. It was how much? $1.75. You believe guys would try it out. I never actually ordered anything off of them. My mother wouldn't let me waste my money. Probably was a good idea. But I think it would be cool to have a lot of those things around for novelty, even if they didn't work. So at any rate, got the letters page here. I'll spare you that. But Doctor, okay. They used to get. Oh wow! Here, maybe in the future we'll read this. There's a Kurt Busiek letter here. We only got 30 seconds. Maybe in a future issue I'll pick it up because I have limited time on here. I didn't realize that. That's totally coincidental. It's a Kurt Busiek letter. He becomes, of course, a very prominent creator in Marvel Comics later on and DC. So that's kind of coincidental. So at any rate, on that note, Wild Man Z out. Take care. Have a good holiday.